Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines, and we are back in Auridon today. Last time out, we built this tiered residential neighbourhood using high-density residential assets, just vanilla ones, and a lot of rock detailing to make them look alright, I think, going up this little small hill here. And of course we also did extend our ferry line, and finally we have a whole ton of people using it, which is just so nice to see. They are actually using the ferries for the first time in Auridon, so yeah, super excited about that. Now before we come on to today's build, there is a little bit of naming that I do want to do. Now there were so many suggestions for names around here, but the one name that has really stood out to me was one by a Patreon of mine, Brad Stanton. Thank you so much for your suggestion of calling this Stanton Island, because that is exactly what I am going to do. Obviously a play on Staten Island, New York, being that we have the Statue of Liberty here. But Brad, you have been a really avid supporter of mine over these first couple of months, and you forgo sleep to stay up and join the stream. So seriously, in your honour, thank you so much for all of your support, and here we have a Stanton Island. And of course we are going to call this the Stanton Island Ferry, because it just absolutely has to be done. Has to be done. So look, thank you so much for your support, and I really love that name. And there were so many other good names, so it was a really hard one to choose between, so thank you all so much for your suggestions. And on that basis, I would like to give a separate name out actually to the little rock that the Statue of Liberty is sat on. And that is actually to call it Liberty Rock. And that was a suggestion by Mackie. So thank you so much for your suggestion, and to everyone for all of their suggestions. It was really, honestly, really hard to choose the name for this one, because they were all so good. They were all so good. And we did have a couple of other suggestions as well. And the first one was to fix this cable car pillar, which I failed to do in the last episode. So yeah, thanks to all of those that pointed it out. I have indeed fixed it now, so it looks an awful lot better than having that massive concrete pillar that I just raised up using Move It. So one of the other suggestions that came in was from CT, and that was around this pool. So if we go to nighttime view, there were no lights here at all. I have now fixed that, so we do have some nice little low lighting spotlights, sideways spotlights sitting out onto the pool to just floodlight that area a little bit better. So thanks for pointing that out, CT. I have adjusted that. And the final thing that I want to do is around this plaza. So there were loads of good suggestions about this. You know, is it a statue that's been commemorated Siobhan, someone mentioned? And also loads of people calling for something to be named after Chapman, the old man that was the Iron Man that was stuck in the middle of the road in the first-person tram ride, and in the beginning of the last episode he was still there. So we are actually going to call this the Chapman Plaza, because we can't name the actual statue itself, so we'll just name the plaza the Chapman Plaza. And we can pretend as well that it was commissioned by Siobhan's family, because I really like that idea as well. So thank you for that. So coming on to today's episode, I actually put up a poll and asked you guys to choose what build was going to come next, and you pretty overwhelmingly voted in support of a campus build. So that is absolutely what we are going to do today. But just before we do that, in the last episode we hit a population of 17,000, and that actually unlocks us crematoriums. And as you may have seen if you've watched the previous episodes, I keep having massive death waves. So I think it's pretty important that we get a few of these in just before we kick off today. So yeah, I have just gone ahead and plopped in a few crematoriums. So we've got one over there, one down here by the hospital, and one over on Stanton Island. So that should cover us a little bit for now. I mean, it's still pretty patchy. And in fact, actually, we still need to come through and do this area, which I will likely do on a live stream, I think, at some point. We will just plot one on here on the high street for now, next to the medical clinic there, so they've got a bit better coverage over in their good old Iron Grandpa district. And yeah, we will come through on a live stream at some point and detail this area out, because we still want to do our little rural high street over here in that outer suburb, so that will happen at some point. Now, we do also have a few bin issues, and that is something we are going to have to address in a episode pretty soon, because we actually only have this one large recycling centre for a population of 18,000 now. But we do have, of course, a lot of the smaller district recycling hubs dotted actually pretty much all over the place. So there's quite a few of those which should help. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. And yeah, we've got 2 buildings here that haven't got anything. So I think what we will do is just plop an extra one in there so we've got a few more trucks. Because the thing is with these is they're great in terms of processing rate. You don't need the big recycling hub actually. But they only have 3 garbage trucks, so they can't pick very much up at one time. So balancing them out with the larger recycling hubs is actually the best option. So yeah, we will need to come through soon and look at public utilities. I still need to do this area. So I think what we will do is do a bit of a public service campus in this area. So sewage treatment, recycling hub, that sort of thing. Coming on to the campus. Now, I was originally actually going to do it out in this area. But having had a little scout around Google Earth, I have found some inspiration which has changed where actually I am going to put it. So I am now going to utilise this area and also a bit of this side of the highway as it expands out. So first up for the campus, we need to go ahead and put in our district area, our campus district area. So I am just going to fill this all out. Now this ferry terminal, I do want to move, and I want to move it down to where we have a bit of a dock, which is still quite a way off because it will be somewhere around this island. So for the moment, I am going to leave it there until we want to utilise this space for part of the campus or extended residential, that sort of thing. But yeah, for now it is just going to stay, and we'll have to kind of block it out of our minds for a little bit. Now, first up, I think we will scoot over to do a first little bit of Google Earthing, actually, in an Auridon episode. So now here we find ourselves at the University of Wisconsin Madison, and looking at this, I mean, this is an absolutely ginormous campus. So it stretches from like way over here. I mean, I think there's still campus buildings, I think, going on down there. We've obviously got a massive Camp Randall Stadium going on here. Got lots of the campus university buildings all around here, all the way up. And then we have a hospital as well in the nearby vicinity. So I thought we could use this for quite a lot of inspiration for Auridon's university. Now, the main little bits that I want to look at and take inspiration from are this little bit here. So this nice little green plaza area, which extends up to this building. So I definitely want to try and use that for inspiration. And we also have over here these halls of residence as well, with this little road and the cul-de-sacs. It goes on to car parks, lots and lots of green space in between all of it. And then as well, the final thing I definitely was looking at and keen to do something on is this little, what looks like a kind of boat club, it must be, tiny little marina here on the waterfront. So there are so many little things that we can take from this to utilise within Auridon. So yeah, the big thing being lots of green space, lots of parks with very defined pathways in them as well, some really nice patterns. And definitely these halls of residence with these green areas in the middle with the paths through them, some little umbrella seating areas in the middle as well. We're going to try and take a lot of this for inspiration and use it for Auridon. And we've got some kind of older looking buildings, and I'm definitely no architect, so I don't know technical terms for these, but I'm going to call them older looking buildings. And then some much bulkier, bigger buildings like this biochemical sciences building there. So we can definitely try to recreate the feel of this campus, which I absolutely love. And small little shout out to City Planner Plays there, because I think this is his hometown, if I'm not mistaken. So scooting back into Auridon, so we have a much smaller area here. So just to be super clear, this is not a recreation of any kind, but we are going to do our best to take inspiration from that campus and utilise it here. So the first thing I want to do is draw out the roads for our kind of opening plaza area that we are going to do. And I'm just going to make it 6 units in between and 30 units long, which I think will be fine. And I'm just using these suburban roads here, which don't have any road markings on, because I feel like they'll look a little bit nicer for a plaza area like this. And then what we will do is just bring this road out straight either side there, and then make a nice smooth connection onto this collector up this side here. So let's just start getting some buildings in, shall we? So I am going to use the Liberal Arts College here. I think it has a sort of similar look to it to the University of Wisconsin Madison. So this is what we are going to use. Yeah, I'm just going to take the main administration building, and that's certainly going to go at the end of this strip like this. But what I do want to do with it is make a little bit more of a feature out of it. So we're going to move it back ever so slightly. And now it feels like I do this every single episode, but we are going to use some more keys in here just to add a little bit of extra effect, I think, to the front of this. And actually, and to get it in properly, what we want to do is just raise this building up ever so slightly with Move It, just a tiny bit. So we're not talking about a massive podium type key build here. We're just talking about some subtle detailing with the keys, I think. And really that is all that I want. Maybe a tiny, tiny, tiny touch higher. So we'll just bring up this key just a little bit more. But that was sinking into the earth. So just bring that up a tiny bit. Let's level these nodes to this building so it's up just a little bit more. And of course the key is flipped around. So I think just like that is absolutely fine. And then what I'll do is take the building and make sure that is level to the ends of these keys here. So it's all nice and flat. Yeah, just like that. And now because this is saying that it's not connected, what I am going to do is go in and use just this one unit pavement road here in front of it. So it blends nicely into the key. You won't even be able to see it. We're just going to bring that out. So yeah, like that will be perfect. And we'll just draw that all the way across. And of course it's completely unlevel. So what we do need to do there is grab the nodes from it and make sure that they are the same height as this building. Yeah, just like that. And it has pushed the ground up a little bit in front of the key here. So what I do want to do is just grab those nodes again and move it back just a little bit so it's much closer up to the building here. And then what I do need to do is just to level out the ground around it, because you'll see those stairs look absolutely ridiculous at the moment, is just to grab a really small brush size and level out the terrain around this building just a little bit. Now the other thing that we need to do is finish off these keys here. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is just draw in a very small piece of key like so. I'm going to take this end and make sure it is level with that end, and make sure this one is right on the ground here, although we can adjust it in a second. And then let's just move that into place so that it's right in line at the end of this key. So it does need a little bit of adjustment here to get this perfectly into place. And for this road, in order to smooth it out, we do want to go ahead and add in an extra node to it. So we can use control space to step over and make sure that we're on the road, and then we'll put in a node right there, and then also one right here so that we can control the height of the slope of the road. So if we now grab that node, we want to make sure that's level with this building, and this one is right in line with the bottom of the key here, and then the slope should, in theory, line up. Yeah, so we get a nice smooth pavement area all the way at the front here. And then we'll do exactly the same on this side. And now, of course, what we do want to do is make sure that this is all absolutely in line with the centre of this plaza strip here, because if it's not, then it's all a big waste of time, frankly. So yeah, that is nicely in the centre. And then what that does is it just gives this building a little bit more standout, because I'm not actually the biggest fan of the front of this. I feel like it's a little bit plain. So I think just having the key there helps to lift it up a little bit and make it pop out just a tiny bit more. Now, in terms of the other buildings that we want to put around here, we have got the School of Education, which is a really, really nice looking asset that I think would fit quite nicely up against this road. Although I say up against this road, what we do want to do actually is just move it back just a tiny, tiny bit. So we've got a slight space in between there, and then introduce a path. Just again to add a bit more greenery, like we saw on Google Earth, a lot of green in amongst different paths. That is the type of thing that we want to have here. Now I do want to make some walking path connections here as well. We're going to have to adjust these a little bit so that they are not in the middle of the road, but we can do that very easily with Move It, just like that, so that yeah, people can walk easily to and from the main road and up and down it. And then what I will do with the path as well, just to mirror it so that we've got it in, is do exactly the same thing the other side. So that gives us a nice framing in the run up to this front building here. And the other thing that I do want to do is create path connections up to the quay here for people to walk up there. And then what that gives us in the middle here is a little bit of an opportunity for some tiny plaza detailing. So I'm actually just going to fill this in with kind of somewhat heavy concrete, and we'll just use brush tool to tidy up those tiny little bits of tearing at the bottom of the surface painter there. And then in this space, again, to add greenery, what we will do is introduce some nice planters, and nothing that's like too big or too space consuming, but I think just a couple of these would do really nicely in here. And then what we can do within them is add in a few different bushes for decoration here. And I'm going to keep this just really green with a couple of these pink flowers, but it's nothing too bright or in your face. Just quite natural looking is what we want for here. And yeah, so there we can see the effect, and that is starting to come together. And what I do want to do here, actually, before I really do forget, is just add in a temporary power connection here so that we can start to get the university up and running and get people in. And also for that reason, I am going to scoot on over to where we have our two faculty buildings here and turn these off so that people can't go to university there, and they are, yeah, everyone's going to be really unhappy about that, but they are forced to come over here to the yet to be named, so do shout out name suggestions in the comments, the yet to be named university. Now if I just flash up Google Earth again, we can see here we've got that plaza with the two planters out the front. There's not a quay there, so it's pretty different, but we've got steps running up to the building at the back here. But in the middle here, what we do want to see is we have got this cross road in the middle, and then we've got these really cool crossing path patterns with hedges all around the outside. So that is what we are going to try and do. And there's a few sculptures I would add as well, dotted around. So coming back to Auridon, I've just put in the crossroads in the middle here. And then what we will do is put in our little crossing paths. And I'm thinking I will just use plain pavement path for this, because I don't think it needs to be any more or less than that. And what we are just going to do is just a really simple crossing path pattern. And I'm going to have to turn snapping off because I want to get the end of this right into that square there. And we'll just have to move the centre over where all of those nodes cross so that we get a nice cross in the middle. And try and snap it in as best we can. So like that will be good. And we can do exactly the same thing in this square here. So there we go. And now we do want to get our hedges in. And I've got these hedges off the workshop. And these are really, really nice because they curve when they go around the corners like this. So really, really cool little low hedges for detailing up around this particular area, because that gives that really nice curved effect. Now in order to get some sculptures in, the sculptures that come with the base game really aren't honestly that great. It's pretty limited. We've only got good old Chapman sculpture that we have already used in several places, and just one small dragon sculpture from the Japanese content creator pack. So I have gone onto the workshop and just got this sculpture off it, which I think has quite a nice effect to it, just to stand in the middle there. And then right at the front, I also have these like quite random lion sculptures. So I think we're going to utilise these here. But what I do want is a base to put them on. So I'm just going to get, in fact, actually, we will do marble here, so that we get this nice kind of square forecourt at the front here in which we can put our lion statues on. Now I need to put prop and tree anarchy on for this, but yeah, what I want is just literally the two of them like this. I think facing out will be nice. We'll just make sure they're square in the middle there, which they are. I'm thinking actually what we will do is this, just a tiny piece of hedge right here in between them. So we'll need to turn off collision for this and get that in. So we can just put in the hedge like that, and then what we'll do is we'll move it so that it's perfectly in line with the back of the statues there. And then what that does is just give a tiny bit of greenery around them. Now we'll come back and do some more detailing around this park. So we definitely want to do some flower beds and some feature bits up the front here and also up the other end as well. So we'll do all of that in a detailing time lapse a little bit later. But now, just to have a look at some other buildings. And actually, before I forget, I've just remembered. So we're getting students in. We need to set up the academic works. So let's give a grant for one right now. And what I will do actually, because we've got tons of money, so even if we lose a bit, it'll be okay. Let's just turn that up a little bit to 6 grand so that we can try and get a better chance of getting those academic works in. So just looking at the other buildings that we do have available, we have got the Liberal Arts Study Hall, which again I think would look reasonably good framing this road here. And I am actually going to put it side. Oh, hello. I am actually going to put it side on. And what we will do at the front here as well is get rid of those car parking spots, because we're going to have lots of parking around here and I don't like the aesthetic of it next to the path there. So we'll get rid of those, and then I'm just going to adjust it over just a tiny bit so that pavement and the hedge there lines up nicely with the pathway. But then we do also want to get in our dormitories. So I'm just going to bring a really, really small road out. I think just like that actually. And of course we need to turn tree anarchy off for this. No episode goes past without me forgetting that, it seems. And we'll just bring this road out straight here. And then I would like to make a little curved cul-de-sac like what we saw on Google Earth here as well. I'm just going to turn all snapping off of this. I'm going to bring this road back in completely straight here so that we get this sort of slightly off shaped cul-de-sac, and then just curve that round just a little bit so that, yeah, we get this slightly off oval shape round here is exactly what I'd like to see. And what we can do as well is convert this to parking lot roads so that we can then put car parking spaces in on this side. Yeah, we'll just have a few spaces like that, and they obviously don't fit in perfectly around a curve, but I think it's okay. If we had some hatchings, we could come in and mark that up a little bit better, but for now that will do. Now with the dormitories, yeah, I want to arrange them in a bit of a pattern like we saw on Google Earth as well. And these dormitories go together, as I say about everything, really nicely. So what we can do is just let's place a few of them down. And actually what I do want here is I want 5. So it may be overkill for the size of our university now, but again, our budget is fine. So let's just go ahead and do it. We'll place 5 down. Now, what I would like to do is move these 2 up so that we get a nice, long, continuous looking building here. And before I go too much further, I am just going to use Bob to get rid of all of these vanilla trees because they just don't go with the surroundings at all. So let's remove those, and we will also in this case remove the bushes so that we can have our own decorations as we see fit around these buildings. But yeah, these dormitories go really, really nicely when they're moved right up close to one another. And of course, if they're actually the same height as well, it would help there. But just like that, they fit in really nicely and flow really nicely as one slightly longer building. So it just helps to break up the monotony of having the same type of buildings over and over again if they're just placed in single positions. We'll just move that up just a tiny bit. And I'm thinking this road actually is too far out, so I'm just going to go ahead and move this back. That'll be much better, I think. So now with this one again, I'm having all of these buildings facing into a central plaza here so that we can do some pathwork within it like we saw on Google Earth. We saw those little parks, little green areas in the middle with some nice diagonal pathways in them. So that is what we want to do here. And then for this bit, instead of making it a nice long building, I'm going to merge them. And again, we want to make sure that they're the same height. That's absolutely crucial to this pattern here. But if we merge them in just like that, the roofs actually go together pretty well there. And we just want to adjust that over just a tiny bit so that that wall is wall-to-wall corner. But again, they work really, really nicely in a little L shape like that. The roofs go together perfectly. The walls go together perfectly. And yeah, there's full access all the way around. Even the hedge looks absolutely fine at the front there. So yeah, that is what we want to do with these. And now to get these all perfectly in line, I just want to move these up so that that pavement bit is adjoined at the end there, so that the textures are all continuous, but we do have a little bit of a gap for people to walk through if they so need. And then with the fifth one, what we are going to do again is create another corner on this side. Just like that is actually probably fine. I might just pull this back just a tiny bit. So we've got a bit more room to play with here, because what I'd like to do here firstly is bring in a car park. So if we just continue this road on diagonally round like so, and then up just a tiny bit, we can get a parking lot road in here and a reasonably big car park, I think, for the university accommodation coming down like that. And now, of course, they want path access. So let's just grab our Liberal Arts College path. And what we will do is bring it in round the side of this building and then round in a square like so that we get access to all of these buildings. And then to decorate it up just a little bit, I do want that diagonal pathway in there so that we get that similar effect to what we saw on Google Earth. So yeah, just like that will be fine. And then in these couple of areas where we've got just a bit of green on the outside of it, I am just going to use a little bit of brush tool just to get rid of those areas so that it neatens up a little bit, and we've just got the green in the middle for the kind of garden area. And then out here, I'd like to put in some little tables with umbrellas. Yeah, these assets that we did use down in Stanton Island. Yeah, just a few of these dotted around this garden area I think would be nice. And then, of course, what we definitely want to do is come in with a little bit of bushes to decorate this out. So I'll do that now. So there we go. So I have just copied literally the same formation over to here to make these quite a large. I mean, we've got 10 dormitories in here, so it is quite a large residential area compared to the size of our university that we've got going on over there. But it's going to work in the long run, and it looks quite nice, I think. So yeah, we've got these green little plaza areas in the middle here, a few picnic benches. Got quite a few of the benches with the umbrellas in this one, then actually just added in a few fruit trees as extra decoration there. But yeah, just lots of path networks going everywhere, all the way around the back, so they can walk all the way around that. So we're getting this kind of nice path shape around the campus there, and lots of walkability for the students. Now, while I was doing that, we did also level up to recognised. I'm just going to dial this back down now, and also turn the speed back down just a little bit. So we need to get in a few more students. We definitely need more campus attractiveness and more academic works as well. So to get the students in, I am just going to put on a couple of these policies here. Now that adds a lot to the upkeep. We do have a lot of money. Oh, let's just put it on. We do have a lot of money. We'll keep an eye on it. But we'll do that for now. Now, coming back to the building. So we have unlocked a few new ones, which is Great news. So we have the cafeteria first as well, which is something that I'd like to put over here near these halls of residence. And of course what we will do is remove the parking spaces here again, because they just don't go when we've got the parking lot in front of it. We don't want people parking on the actual building itself. So we'll get rid of that. Now this road here as well, I'd like this road to continue on. So let's go ahead and grab the same road, so just this pavement road. And what we will do is actually, I'm going to bring it out in slightly curved road pattern, because again, going back to that university, there were a lot of curved roads in it as well. It wasn't all straight line grids or anything like that by any means, so we definitely want to keep that. And obviously that's how we like it in Auridon. We're going to keep our bendy road patterns. So we're just going to curve this round ever so slightly, just to give a slight change in direction to this road. So what I'd like to do in here, I think, is bring out the gymnasium here. And then in between those, we will add the outdoor study area. Now, I'm just going to plop that in like that. Now, I want to get rid of all of these trees on it, because again, they're just the wrong trees for the Auridon environment. So we'll get rid of those. Going to get rid of the parking spaces as well off the gymnasium, because we don't want those. So now with this, what I would like it to do is almost essentially be an extension of this pavement road here. So if we just bring it in ever so slightly so we can get the pavements to merge there, then what I want, in fact we'll bring that over a tiny bit so we've got the room to do what I want, and that is to bring out a slightly lower tier path to this one, so we've got a slight slope there. And we'll turn snapping on, bring that one out straight and make a connection down the side like that, and then they can walk down the quays here, which we do just need to adjust ever so slightly again. And then of course what we can do in here is come in with our fir trees, our Auridon fir trees, and decorate this up so that it blends into the environment. So yeah, so there we go, and we can add more detailing into this. I'm thinking a bit of fencing is definitely needed along here, so we can do that in the detailing time lapse. And then out in front here as well, I'd like to continue on some sort of sharp path patterns. So I think what we'll do is bring in a diagonal path like this, which just leads up and connects onto there. And then we can continue to bring this one out straight so that it varies from the rest of it. And then we also do have the liberal arts fountain, which I'd quite like to introduce, I think, in front of this halls of residence here. But as it doesn't quite fit into the space, what we are going to do is make it fit. So we're going to just move that over a little bit. We use Bob to change those trees up, just like that. And then we can grab our tiles as well. And if we make sure that we have got the linear fence fill on here, it will make it a hell of a lot easier to get these in. So, because it will fill in the gap automatically for us, which is something that I only just learned very, very recently. It just extends this fountain out a little bit so that it fits properly with the roads that we have got going on there. And similarly here, what I would like to do actually is extend this out this way so that it fills this gap, and it's a bit of a walkway here. And what we can do is put a path underneath this so that pedestrians can actually walk down that way. And we'll do exactly the same thing the other side too, which will lead really nicely onto the end of this path, kind of centralising with this walkway down to the fountain there. Of course, we just want to get rid of those trees as well. But yeah, we've got this long tiled walk down to the fountain, just like that. And we can definitely come in and do some more flower bed detailing around this. And then again, in this space, we want to keep going with that bold path pattern. So lots of kind of zigzags and interesting shapes is what we want to achieve here. Now there are a couple more buildings that I haven't used, so let's just check on our university. So we need more students, which is going to be the problem here. We're definitely not going to be able to get this to level 5 in one episode like our oil. So we're definitely going to run into difficulties with students just because our population really isn't that high at the moment. I mean, yeah, 18,000, not too bad, but it's going to fluctuate. Yeah, this is going to be a half-done university for today. But the other two buildings that we have unlocked, I think could go quite well at the bottom here. And I'm just going to scoot back over to Google Earth for a second. So we've got our residential blocks here, similar to what we were using as inspiration for our blocks in Auridon. And then if we come to the waterfront here, we do have this boat house sailing club thing, is what I'm thinking that this might be. So we are going to take some inspiration from that and do a little waterfront sailing club for Auridon's university as well. So there we go. So we have got a little college sailing club in there, and then what we do need to do is just a tiny bit of detailing on the top of the quay here, just to yeah, we'll bring out a little bit of a plaza, maybe with some picnic tables, that sort of thing, for after their sailing event, whatever it is that they might be doing. See, I think that kind of looks quite cute, nestled in there right by the halls of residence. And yeah, it just gives us 2 more of those university buildings down there as well. Now, we are definitely going to struggle for people, so this will not be the end of the college today by any means at all. But what I do want to do is just introduce a few different buildings down here, because I want this to feel, although it is a campus as such, I want it to feel quite blended into the city. So we want to use some other city type buildings down here to just kind of keep on that city effect. And I am purposefully leaving this gap clear before more university buildings, because I want them up against the road, up close to the hospital over here. So this gap will be left free. But down here, we can start to introduce some more unique buildings. And the first one that I would like to introduce is this Grand Central Terminal. Now, only because it's kind of got that little old sort of look and feel. It's a similar brick to a lot of these liberal arts college campus buildings. So I feel like it goes in reasonably well here. And then what we'll do is bring out a road alongside it here. So if we just bring that straight up for now, what I would then like to do is add just a really, really small car park onto the back here. And what we can do with node controller here as well, because I don't want that to be a kind of weird curve. So if we align these nodes together, that will give us a slightly straighter edge to this road rather than that super curved bit. One of the other buildings that I would like to introduce into here as well is actually the TV station. Is it a TV? Yeah, TV station. So again, like I just quite like how this looks, and I feel like a media building. You know, maybe it's a media building for the university students, something along those lines. Yeah, just quite like the look of it. Again, similar kind of colour. It's blocky brick, so it's a little bit different, but I feel like it works quite well in this area. Now, we have got odd car parking spaces all around the middle there. And what I would like to do with that bit is take those car parking spaces off, just like that, and bring in just a really, really small road. So I'm actually going to use the 1 unit with car parking on the side. If we bring it straight up there and out round the other side, we can just bring it down in a loop. And again, we just need to move this up so that it snaps in nicely there. And we can just tidy that up a little bit, yeah, with node controller, just to make sure that that's straight. But then people can drive in and around the TV studios and park in the middle there. And actually, I think just for aesthetic sake, what I might do is change that to non-parking and that one, so they can only park in that little middle stretch there. Yeah, so it might be like the, I don't know, when the celebrities are coming in to be interviewed, they get to go and park inside the TV studios rather than in the car parks around the edge. And then one more unique building that I do want to use in here as well is actually the Science Centre. Now, this is quite a different take to any of these other buildings, but like we saw on Google Earth, there were some much bulkier, much bigger buildings introduced around the campus. And I feel like a campus is an appropriate place for the Science Centre to be, so I'm quite happy that this can be in this location. And I like the height of it around these other buildings. It is super modern, so it has a very different look and feel to it, but yeah, I think that's a good thing actually here, to bring a bit more variation into the campus. And like I said, this will definitely be more of the university style of buildings, fleshing out this area. And then here, what we'll start to do is mix them up a bit more as we go heading towards the downtown and getting a little bit more density and that sort of thing in. And then out the front here, there's lots of opportunity for plazas as well. So I think what we will do is bring in just a couple of our standard plazas back to back. We'll fill this area in nicely around the Science Centre here. And what we want to do again here is keep introducing some of our hard path pattern the other side of this Science Centre. So it still looks like it's like really blending into the college campus here. So we'll turn road bending off and bring out some really hard, sharp, diagonal patterns into here. And again, trying to be actually as non-uniform as possible, I think, is what works better with this type of thing. So I will actually just break that and we'll bring it in slightly further down. Yeah, so we've got quite an odd shape there. And I really need to turn off tree anarchy for this. Now, the other thing we really need to consider for the university is public transit and making sure that people can get here easily. So we've got this metro line that was always intended to come down to the university. However, because I have changed my mind from doing it out here to against the coast, what I am going to do is just divert this a little bit from the original line that we put in and just bring it round so that it can meet where we want it to go now. Now, right opposite this main plaza leading up to the main building here, what I would like to do is add in a four-way. Now, this is going to cause major traffic on the collector road. I do realise that it's not an ideal solution by any means, but let's use traffic managers to make sure that this is give way here, and also that we are saying continue straight on, because I don't want people stopping at these junctions here. I want them to continue, and we can leave that as traffic lights. And here we will have dedicated turning lanes to help the traffic out there, but I'm actually not going to do it on these connections so that traffic can stay in the lane that they need to be down through that junction there. It may not work out, but we'll see. We'll see. And now here, what we can do is put in our metro station. And we are going to use one of the content creator pack metro stations because they fit super nicely over these four-way roads. And I think what we will use, because I'm imagining there's going to be a route coming down from the downtown, and then I'm thinking we've got this one going into prepare to market over here, and we'll actually have another line going off this way to whatever it is that we decide to put into that space there. So I'm just going to place that in like so, and then connect up the metro line. And that is looking a little bit janky for now, but we can fix it up when we put in the other lines. So let's get in a metro route so we can just have people going backwards and forwards. So that should definitely help out our Sims there. Yeah, we definitely don't want pedestrians crossing this like crazy. So I will introduce a pedestrian bridge here as well. And we've got the academic report and we are still recognised. Yeah, our students have gone down a bit. So this is definitely going to be a work in progress, this campus, for sure. We need to get in a booster population. This is all levelled out now as well. I would also like to put some services in here, and what I'm thinking for that is that I will bring them out in front of this metro. So if we bring a road down the side here, and we just check them, yeah, there's no pillars there. So we'll bring a road down like that, and then straight underneath here. And then what we will do is bring it out parallel to the main collector here. So again, this is our way of starting to get a bit of density against that road as we head towards the downtown. And I'm actually going to use, for the first time, the larger police headquarters and fire station in here, just to have them in. And I don't like how they look actually right next to each other, so let's just separate them out a little bit. And what we can do as well next to the police station is add in a very small police car precinct. So just like that. And I have made sure that they are all facing out of the spaces now so they can get out quickly in an emergency. So now the other thing that we can bring into a campus as well is a sports team, but I think we are going to wait for that. We'll wait a little bit longer until we've got slightly higher student capacity and a little bit more money as well. But one other thing that I would like to do in here before we go into our detailing time lapse is just to add a little bit of commercial into this area. So we are going to use a little bit of low density commercial from the University City content creator pack down here. Because they do fit really nicely onto a campus. So we're going to use a little row of these buildings. So we'll just put those in. And then we can also vary them up to these slightly bigger ones as well. But what we will do here is then line all of these buildings up wall to wall. Now see, where this building is on a corner, I do want to utilise that on the corner here. So we'll just turn that round and have that facing that way. And then we can continue on the terrace from this side. And we'll just be wary of things like that corner there. So we can just merge this one in that side. And what we can do here is continue this on round into a little block of commercial. So there we go. So we've got our small block of university shops there. And then for this side, what I would like to do is actually just give it a slightly, like a bit more height, because when we turn around and we've got that there, it doesn't make much sense being this low. These ones are slightly blockier, so I don't mind them as much. But with these, what we are going to do is a little trick that I did actually on my Twitch stream City, which is to merge in some of the vanilla low density commercial, but the slightly taller buildings. So yeah, by doing that, what we end up having is this just slightly taller shop front. So we get the nice, cute University Content Creator Pack shop fronts down at the bottom there. And then we've got a lot more height going on at the back. So I think that just helps to make it stand up against some of these bigger buildings that we've got going on here. And just to add to the commercial district as well, I would also like to include the shopping centre here as well. So what we do need to do around this again is a bit of detailing and a bit of tidying up. We can do some nice benches and planters and things like that around this to turn it into much more of a plaza-y type area. And actually down this side again, I'm going to do a similar thing of introducing a couple of plazas just back to back so that we get some more just open spaces into this area. And then out in front of it here, I'm going to save that space for another university building when we do unlock them, so that we can spread out the vibe of this university across this whole area. So yeah, we just desperately need students at this point. Everything else is pretty much on track. I think that's all the levels that we are going to get to for today. In which case, it is then time to go into a detailing time lapse. there we have it. So that was actually a lot less detailing than I've done in a lot of episodes recently. I kept it relatively minimal, but there is still a lot more that we need to come in and do. So we will flesh out this area all the way up to the road here and move the ferry terminal and the cemetery and that sort of thing. Make a bit of a feature out of these beaches as well we still need to do. And of course we will put in sports at a later date. So there's still a lot more to do on this campus. I mean, we're only at level 2, but that seems to be as far as I can get without sitting here and waiting an extra couple of days. So yeah, all I've done here really is added in some very basic bush patterns. I wanted to keep it really open grass, which is not what we've had much of in Auridon. It's a lot of trees and a lot of rocks and a lot of foliage everywhere. So I've tried to keep quite a few open grass patches here to keep this, yeah, very, very open and green, but also landscaped and still woody in places. Just very simple patterns on this main plaza entrance area here. We've just got a little repeated bush pattern along the road there. Again here as well, just using those paths to make a bit of a feature out of them, and tree lining this part at the back of these shops just to block that off from the halls of residence this side as well. I thought was quite important. I have added in 2 multi-storey car parks, which will be needed when we come onto the sports as well, but also because we've got the science centre here, we've got the Grand Central Terminal, we've got the TV station, the shopping centre. This is quite a heavy touristy area. And we will absolutely at some point come in and put tourist routes, the bus routes in, the bus tours in. And this will obviously be one of the key areas that they come to for that. And I will also introduce trams into this area at some point, probably running up this main road too, likely in the next episode so we can improve that public transit. And I think we'll take it out to the metro too, so that we get people coming in from the metro onto the tram to take them around the campus area. So we've already seen the detailing around the halls of residence. Yeah, it's really not very much. I put in some benches around this Grand Central Terminal too, just to fill in some of those areas. I've just seen there's a little black area here, so let's just tidy that up with a bit of brush tool. And actually, I've also just spotted those car parking spaces, so let's definitely go ahead and get rid of those. This little plaza as well, just added in some picnic benches and done some tree-lined patterns as well. Again, trying to keep it relatively open grass and relatively minimal detailing. And then down by the waterfront, we have just put in a little bar here. And because the landscape was really hard to work with, I've actually just utilised a little bit of path here with no controller to make it a lot wider, so that we could get in a nice kind of framed off concrete area that was flat as well, so that we could put our little tables down and the little food truck there for people after their sailing adventures. So for today, that is going to be it, but we just need to wait a while to get this up to level 5 is ultimately what it is. So we will be absolutely coming back to this in the very, very near future to get this all tidied up and finished off. I think the first part is looking all right. I particularly like the halls of residence. I think that's come out really, really well, using University of Wisconsin Madison as a bit of inspiration there too. But I like how we're starting to build up the density as well. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do whack that like button. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you thought and any suggestions for names for our new university. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.